South Carolina prepares for its first firing squad execution since 2010. Brad Sigmund, convicted of a double homicide, faces execution on March 7, 2025. This case reignites the debate on capital punishment methods. Sigmund was found guilty of murdering his ex-girlfriend's parents in 2001. He chose death by firing squad over electrocution. Drug shortages have led states to consider older execution methods. Sigmund's choice shocked the legal system and public. His lawyer called the choice monstrous, highlighting ethical dilemmas. South Carolina's decision could set a precedent for other states. This case underscores the complex questions of capital punishment. The resurgence of the firing squad is not an isolated incident. Across the United States, a growing number of states are facing a critical shortage of lethal injection drugs. Pharmaceutical companies, facing mounting pressure from human rights groups and ethical concerns, have become increasingly reluctant to supply the drugs used in executions. This shortage has thrown the death penalty into disarray, forcing states to scramble for alternatives. Some states have turned to compounding pharmacies, while others have explored using different drug combinations. However, these approaches have faced their own set of legal challenges and ethical concerns. The scarcity of lethal injection drugs has breathed new life into older methods of execution, including the firing squad. Proponents of these methods argue that they offer a more reliable and humane alternative to lethal injection, which has been plagued by botched executions and allegations of cruel and unusual punishment. States like Idaho have considered making the firing squad their primary method of execution, reflecting a growing frustration with the uncertainties surrounding lethal injection. The drug shortage has exposed the fragility of the death penalty system and fueled a contentious debate about the future of capital punishment in the United States. The firing squad, while seemingly archaic, follows a chillingly precise procedure. In South Carolina, the condemned inmate is strapped to a metal chair, positioned 15 feet away from a solid wall. This wall features a rectangular opening, strategically placed to align with the inmate's heart. Before the execution is carried out, a black hood is placed over the inmate's head, obscuring their view of the final moments. 3 volunteer marksmen, all drawn from the ranks of the South Carolina Department of Corrections, stand ready with rifles aimed at the target positioned over the inmate's heart. Upon the execution order, the marksmen fire simultaneously, aiming for a swift and relatively painless death. The use of multiple executioners, a hallmark of the firing squad method, introduces an element of diffusion of responsibility, as it is impossible to determine which bullet ultimately proves fatal. Section 4. A more humane method, comparing execution methods. The renewed interest in firing squads has ignited a debate about the relative humanity of different execution methods. Proponents of the firing squad argue that it offers a swifter and more certain death than lethal injection, which can be botched, leading to prolonged suffering. They point to cases like that of Thomas Eugene Creech, whose 2014 execution in Oklahoma using a new lethal injection drug cocktail lasted 43 minutes, during which he writhed and gasped for air. Such cases, they argue, highlight the potential for cruel and unusual punishment inherent in lethal injection. Opponents of the firing squad, however, contend that no execution method can truly be considered humane. They argue that the firing squad, while potentially quicker, inflicts a gruesome and violent death. The psychological toll on both the condemned and the executioners, they argue, cannot be ignored. The debate over the humanity of execution methods is likely to rage on as long as the death penalty remains legal in the United States. It is a debate with no easy answers, forcing society to confront uncomfortable questions about the limits of punishment and the meaning of justice. Section 5. The Legal and Ethical Battleground. Eighth Amendment Challenges and the Future of the Death Penalty. The resurgence of the firing squad has also reignited legal challenges centered around the Eighth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which prohibits cruel and unusual punishment. Opponents of the firing squad argue that it constitutes a form of cruel and unusual punishment, citing its inherent violence and potential for suffering. These legal challenges raise fundamental questions about the evolving standards of decency that guide the interpretation of the Eighth Amendment. What was considered acceptable punishment in the past may no longer be deemed so today. The courts must grapple with these evolving standards as they weigh the constitutionality of different execution methods. Beyond the legal challenges lie even deeper ethical questions about the death penalty itself. The case of Brad Sigmund and the resurgence of the firing squad serve as stark reminders of the complexities and contradictions inherent in capital punishment. As the United States grapples with these complex issues, the debate over the death penalty and its methods is far from over. The outcome of these debates will shape the future of capital punishment and reflect the nation's evolving values and its understanding of justice.